Patrick Robinson says for $9.99. Bambi live-action remake has lost its director, and Sword in the Stone live-action remake has been put on hold. Is this the end of the remakes? I hope so.
No.
And this is probably news that happened between the transition between the two individuals who
exactly.
one person got fired.
Can you find that story up about the most recent high-profile firing that we had in Disney? Because I believe that may tie into the story. Yeah, that too. That too. Because there was another executive firing in Disney earlier this week. Just as Iger is under threat from Nelson Peltz and desperately has to show that they're doing something, they did a high-profile firing. Let's see if I think that culture may be away. So I have to find the story as well here. Or a script.
Anybody see the? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh well, I know Sarah Polley left Bambi, and that's not a surprise to me because Sarah Polley is a relatively experienced.
Our Sarah Polley?
Yes, our Sarah Polley, a competent and good director. And I didn't believe for a second that Disney would keep her on because they don't hire and maintain competent and good directors. So I wasn't too surprised by that. Who else was the guy that left?
Sean Bailey.
She does like movies about depressing stuff, though.
Mm-hmm. But she's good at doing it.
Yeah, she's very good.
Yeah, and
she's a very talented person.
This story doesn't read the way it should. What they should have said, this should not say Sean Bailey out as production president. It should say Sean Bailey fired, and his door prize on the way out is to be in charge or produce Tren.
Fantastic. So basically the standard, let's get rid of the executive by making them producers and giving them a producer deal where most of their movies will never go anywhere. That kind of fighting, is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, David Greenbaum went immediately into replacing him. Like, there was no passing go, no collecting $200. Like I said, his exit prize is I keep saying that, being the producer for Tron 3.
Yeah. So. In other words, David Greenbaum was recruited, and then when they had him, it was just a matter of getting rid of Sean Bailey. Now, do you think that may have something to do with this change-up that we just saw in live-action movies, with one being put on hold? And that's kind of touch upon this, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And I truly believe is what actually happened. So, and when you look at this again, they didn't have to go very far to get Greenbaum. He was sitting over there at 20th Century Studios, or Searchlight, excuse me. So they didn't have to go very far to collect him. So, after 15 years of live action destruction, they finally got rid of him. And again, I mean, he did produce some things that he did rather well. I mean, this is the guy that live action did up. When you look at Alice in Wonderland, Maleficent, Jungle Book, Lion King live action, Beauty and the Beast live action, Aladdin, that's all him. But then, of course, they strayed away from the shot-for-shot remakes and got deteriorating results.
Yeah, only last year we had the Little Mermaid, which did okay in the US. I stress that it did okay in the US. It didn't do bangbusters, but it did okay. And that's the only place it did, because it absolutely tanked literally everywhere else on the planet. Not one single market did it do anything other than underperform outside of the US. So that probably may have something to do with this, and may mark a shift in strategy. If you were to guess, based on what we know so far, what do you think that David Greenbaum might do different, other than obviously not the Bambi live-action remake, which has lost its director? Who knows, maybe it still can be Chato and Kennedy and starring a chick who is gay.
Fuck baby, can't put a chicken in, make her gay.
Exactly. Or who knows what's going to happen with the Sword in the Stone remake? Maybe it's dead forever. Maybe they'll go completely away from it. We know Nelson Peltz certainly was not a big fan of Disney recycling their content the way that they have been doing. Do you think that this might indicate some kind of new direction?
Well, I think
How
Alan,
much power do you think he has?
quite a lot. I mean, he directly reports to Alan Greenberg. Bergman. Why do I always do that? Alan Bergman. Gosh, why do I always do that? Anyway, yeah. So I think he probably has quite a bit of power. They put a lot of faith in him, and he's got a pretty decent background. I mean, this is a guy that came up through unfortunately Miramax. That's kind of a bad thing, but there's a lot of Miramax people at Disney. Anyway,
They
like
bought
the former-
Miramax.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the former personal assistant that made the Acolyte, But anyway, if you go up through it, he's got a background with films like The Shape of Water, The Favorite, Black Swan. He kind of led things like No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood. He's got experience that they sorely need, kind of on the ground kind of things. But I like you said, I mean, pretty much in script, correct me if I'm wrong, this year most of what Disney is releasing is from the Fox deal, right? Because it's coming out of Searchlight and
I think so, yeah. I mean, Steve Asbell, who's head of Fox, but head of 20th Century Studios, has now got to report to a new person that's above him. That's been a change that Disney has instituted, which I think is foolish. But yeah, some of their back catalog is slowly being pushed out to fill some of the absent theatrical spots that they weren't able to make because of last year's strike. So we'll probably be getting more details on those as the weeks pass.
Yeah, and I think well, I mean, one of those films is like this, the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, right? That's coming out here soon. That was it was under Fox's.
That's under the 20th Century label, yes.
Yeah. So I think Disney's just backfilling, as you suggest, but it looks like they're still up and running with things like Mufasa. I mean, that's another live action recook.
Although I don't think anything's going to happen to that one because The Lion King did more than $1 billion, didn't it? So so it makes fiscal sense to do Mufasa, but I do believe it may blow up in their face depending on the kind of messaging that they inject into it. And with modern day Disney, I mean, I do not necessarily expect it to star a chick who is gay, but I do expect it to have found some other way to really subvert everything the original Lion King was all about.
Well, I think the real question, again, Mufasa's already cooked and ready to go, but I think the question is going to come into, obviously, you guys are talking about the Sarah Polley feature, but with that was live action Bambi, right? Yeah, I think. Yeah. So, but it does put into question: are they going to dump another $200 million into Snow White? Are they going to move forward on live action Moana? And are they going to move forward on Lilo and Stitch, which were all three things that were in development at various stages? I mean, reportedly, the Snow White stuff was done. They were only going to go back for reshoots, but that seems to have a different story behind it. Anyway, it's just interesting. But yeah, this is another high profile move at Disney that does indicate they have very poor leadership, and they're trying to backfill
the starkest the Fox deal, the starkest aspect of it. It's clear that Fox was in the movie business and Disney wasn't. They were just they're a studio. They made movies. Disney doesn't. And so the question I have, maybe a script can answer this. Has Fox been shut down and they're just finishing off what is in the pipeline, or is it a separate business unit that continues to make movies?
It's so hard to determine right now because for all intents and purposes, it feels like 20th Century Studios is shuttered, because we're not really seeing a whole lot of titles coming out in the frequency that we used to when Fox owned the studio. They're few and far between. And when you get a handful of 20th Century Studio productions, it's hard to say since the acquisition of Fox, like how many movies can you actually attribute to what was used to be Fox, since they were
And they
bought by
shut a
Disney.
bunch of stuff down when they took over, right? Anything that wasn't X far into production got shut down. For instance, Die Hard 6. I'm trying to remember a couple other ones, but then again, those are movies now they're talking about dusting off again too. So that's just it.
I mean,
it's a good question, Paul. Who knows where the ones that were already in production or pre-shot or already shooting before compared to
here's another
shelved. I mean,
But here's, again, another stupid question from me is why not just let Fox continue doing what they did? Like, I don't understand why Disney wouldn't just leave them alone. But maybe that's a
you've explained many times why a company wouldn't leave another company it acquires alone. So it's the same kind of reason,
I know.
Especially in Hollywood. I mean, it's a fair question because ideally, the smartest thing a big corporation could do when they acquire a small one is basically says, okay, now we're just going to take our piece of the profits. You keep doing what you're doing. And they just walk away. But they don't do that.
No.
So that's part of the issue here. I mean, I wish 20th Century Fox was putting out more stuff. I mean, they were much like to Universal and Warner Brothers at their peaks. They were a good studio to go to that supported creatives. Disney was always, what's the IP that we can adapt to make it a Disney brand? What's the thing that we can do to drive people to our parks? What's the thing we can do to drive people to buy our stuff? That's an okay Disney model. It works for Disney, but it doesn't work for the rest of the studio, where their entire job is to create entertainment and then find every single way as possible to sell it in different forms after each IP has been released. And they're constantly looking for creative people to come in and fill in the gaps, help them make lots of money. And that mentality doesn't really work with Disney because they don't like to reach outside of Disney to do things of that nature. They like to take a look at what they currently own and remarket that over and over again. And that was Disney's model for at least since the mid 90s to now. I mean, how many sequels to Little Mermaid and Toy Story and Peter Pan and Jungle Book and 101 Dalmatians do we get that were straight to DVD or home market stuff during the Eisner days? And how often did that continue up until Disney started acquiring literally third-party companies and their IPs to add to their catalog?
But they did kind of get it because they had Touchstone.
Yep. And they bought Touchstone in the 80s, and that worked for a time.
I thought they created Touchstone.
I heard that they bought it, but shortly after.
No, I think they created it.
You think they created? Okay.
Touchstone, Hollywood Pictures.
That was
Eisner
and those guys. Yeah.
Am I confusing with Hollywood Pictures then?
They may have scooped up as an independent production house. I am not sure, but
and how long did Miramax? How long
Miramax, they bought them in like 91, 93, I think, somewhere in between there.
And then Dimension came shortly after.
Yeah, and Dimension was just an offshoot of Miramax, yeah.
So they did movies like a studio, like Fox, for a good chunk of time, and then abandoned it all.
In the 90s, Disney probably pumped out more movies than any other studio.
Yeah.
Between all their different production houses, yes. I mean, we just named all the companies that were active in the 90s.
Yep. Hugely active. Horror, suspense, drama.
Yeah, pumping stuff out constantly.
And then what stopped it all? That's an interesting
Bob
question.
Iger.
Harvey.
Bob Iger. There you go.
And Bob Iger, yeah.
Well, I mean, Harvey.
Harvey fucked Miramax. Yeah, that was where that came in, but yeah.
Yeah, he screwed Miramax, and then he left and started the Weinstein Company, which didn't live up to its own reputation. And then Bob Iger, when he got involved, Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures were pretty much all but gone by that point.
They don't even hardly use them anymore. I'm trying to think. I think they use the Touchstone banner for the new Poirot movies, and I think that's it. I might even be wrong about that.
Well, Touchstone was originally created before the Eisner area. That was under Ron Miller.
I was going to say, wasn't that what's his face who went on to Paramount that helped create that?
And
Katzenberg, wasn't it Katzenberg and a couple of those guys? Yeah,
maybe.
Well, yeah. There were definitely.
I want to say it was Katzenberg, and who's the guy who's with Ron Howard always as his producer?
Oh, Grazer.
Grazer. I think those two were ones that started it over there, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Katzenberg was one of the main dudes.
Yeah. Well, again,
because Eisner also came over from Paramount, remember?
Yeah, and again, he's the guy that founded Hollywood for Disney. So Miller created Touchstone, Eisner created Hollywood. But it doesn't matter. Neither of them are putting out anything. Yeah, I mean, technically, Touchstone's defunct.
Yeah, no, that was what was stupid is when they bought Fox, they killed any production that wasn't X far into production. But instead of replacing it with something else, they just didn't do anything else. Like the only things they added was Deadpool finally, and I think the Alien projects.
Yeah, the Alien Planet of the Apes.
Well, Planet of the Apes, I think, was technically already in pre-production over at Fox, but I could be wrong. But yeah.
No, I think you're right. I'm almost certain you're right.
And they got rid of Sound of Freedom.
No, that's on the shelf along with a whole bunch of other movies that have probably been done there. I mean, that one was just lucky that Angel Studios, number one, knew about it, and number two, nobody at Disney, realized the potential it could have, and then basically offloaded it for a lot less than what they were able to make on their own through that distribution deal.
That's insane.
That was a boneheaded decision. Let's just put it that way.
What's funny about this whole thing is Disney's
one of the
biggest one who did this is basically they did it all to themselves at the end of the day anyway. They bought Fox for their streaming network, and they really haven't done anything with it. They had a whole studio that they could have, it could have just kept pumping in money, even though it cost them $70 billion. Like, I don't understand why they did
don't get it.
Me neither.
You have a facility that has its own momentum, its own life. Leave it going. Let it go. I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, we know why it happened because we know the Disney flying monkeys have got to have their fingers in everything. And they weren't going to leave Fox alone. Too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not right. See, we joked about it then, but it almost feels like that's pretty much what it was for. It's just so they could clean up the Star Wars
X-Men
deals and X-Men.
And the Marvel rights, yeah.
And the Marvel rights, yeah. When they'd have been better off just spending half that money on getting Spider-Man instead.
Or creating new IPs.
Yeah.
Well, Disney's never done that really. So that's always out of their way.
Well, that's not totally true. As I pointed out, unfortunately, their live action division used to do that all the time. Everything from like Tron to Mighty Ducks to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids to Roger Rabbit to whatever, Nightmare Before Christmas. They had a lot of stuff. Well, Roger Rabbit would have been Touchstone, but yeah. Anyway, point being is they used to have a side of the company that wasn't animation, and they actually pumped out popular films for families that was considered under the Disney banner, right? Like Cool Runnings and all the other ones we just mentioned. But now all they do is remake their classic animation films. They don't release any original films. The only original film in the last few years has been Haunted Mansion and Jungle Cruise.
And both of those are based off of Disney attractions.
Yep.
So
I was sitting here trying to stretch to remember the last time Disney had an original movie that came out of their studio.
It's tricky, isn't it?
It has been a while.
And Broomstick.
No, I think we got one of the last. I guess if you want to count like one of the last Pirates of the Caribbean sequels, or
again based off of
something like that. Exactly. Yeah. So like we're at this point where
like even
you have to go back to Tomorrowland is again still
still Disney attraction. Yeah, like that's the thing.
Because that was their gimmick after Pirates. Yeah, they're like, well, let's try and turn all of our attractions into a movie.
Yeah.
Instead of basing our attractions on the movies. Which was basically Walt's image, basically, right? Culture was the movies feed the park, which feed everything else.
I mean that's the way it was supposed to work, and you created this nice little circular synergy.
And Mary Poppins Returns would have been their last original movie, I believe,
which was terrible.
A sequel to Mary Poppins,
an unnecessary sequel to Mary Poppins, which was also based off of a play and a story.
But you had that movie about where Tom Hanks played Walt Disney, about the making of Mary
That
Poppins.
was
a
even
Disney
before
movie,
that, though, wasn't it? That was
Right.
before
That led
that,
into
though, wasn't it?
Yeah, Saving Mr. Banks led into, I think, Mary Poppins 2, right?
Yeah, and then Christopher Robin would be one of the only other original ones they had in that era. Yeah,
I don't think
which
that
wasn't
Did
half
anyone
bad.
see Saving Mr. Banks?
Oh God, I
Yes,
think
Saving
so.
Mr. Banks. Check it out. It's not a half bad movie.
It's not half bad, but it's somewhat inaccurate. But yeah.
And then Christopher Robin is based off of Winnie the Pooh, which is also an existing IP. So
yeah,
again, yeah, but actually, I give Christopher Robin credit though, because that's one of their movies they did that they should have been doing, right?
Yeah.
But anyway,
no, that fits the traditional Disney type of brand, which is you take certain public.
Like, what if Christopher Robin grew up? You know, that there's an idea, right?
Well, Max Landis pitched that like 8 years ago too. And
yeah, well,
this was more of a Robert Downey Jr. led thing that was crazy, but yeah, the actual one, the final product was better.
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There, you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey, and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe, and join us.